Thanks for joining us. Here's a look at what we're talking about on this week's Community Crossroads. Serving those who served, a local effort making a difference for veterans. Listen up, why hearing health is taking center stage this month. Exciting free activities for families are in bloom, and new leadership and innovation at Hospice of South Texas. But first, we are learning how the community is helping those who cope with loss. We are joined now by Pastor Larry Green. He's a chaplain at Hospice of South Texas and a huge support to those who are grieving a loved one. So thank you for coming in. We really appreciate having you here.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So when someone's going through loss or grief process, what are some of really the misconceptions that people have about that process?
Well, one of the main things is everybody try to tell everybody how to go through their grief. When grief is fluid, it's like water, and it's all different, and everybody's experience with it is different. And so there's no set time, how long it lasts. You should get over it. You should be through it by now. Grief is like an open wound, and it's bleeding, and only over time, and not just with time, but proper information, healing comes. And we would like people to know that they need to express their grief. If they hurt, if they get mad, if they get angry, if they get upset, those are natural effects of going through the process of grief. But the thing is going through and not standing still.
Mm-hmm. Moving through that process. Okay. And how can friends and family best support someone who is going through the process?
A good process that what people need is an ear. It's not always that you need to say anything to people. Sometimes they just need your presence. And that presence gives them a chance to vent, to get out. It's like in the grieving process, I tell people when people are grieving, don't always hug them, don't always touch them. Allow them to get the snotty cry out, because it releases. It's like water in a dam. When water flows in a dam, it builds up and it puts pressures on the wall. Mm-hmm. And so they have a release valve on the dams that allow the water to come out so it doesn't crack the walls. So if we don't allow our grief to come out, spiritually it cracks our walls. And so by crying, by hollering, throwing things that are plastic, to get your grief out, your frustration out, talking gets it out. It's a way of releasing. Mm-hmm. Because I can't be all upset, but the more I talk and the more I go through it, the more I begin to release some of that tension, some of that pressure. So one of the best things for grief is communication. Tell people how you're feeling. It's okay to say, I'm not okay. You don't have to be all right. And never worry when people say, I know how you feel, because they don't, because everybody's grief is different. Mm-hmm. And so the best way is we have grief groups at Hospice of South Texas at the Dornberg Center on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock where people come and they're allowed to talk about their grief. We don't have a set stage where you got to talk ABC. We allow them to say where they're at and what they need and what's important to them to express.
Okay. And you're actually starting a new program as well, teaming up with local churches. Tell us about that.
Yes, this is called the Shepherd Watch program. What we're doing, we're partnering with our faith community to give assistance to the pastor to help them find the most appropriate information for their parishioners at the most beneficial time. What this does, it allows the pastor to identify those members in his congregation who's facing life-limiting or life-threatening illnesses. And this way, we have what we call a volunteer coordinator that works with the pastor to identify those people. Because as a pastor, I have church folks that are terminally sick that I'm the last one to know about it. And so this would help them. And way it benefits the pastor is Hospice of South Texas provide education, resources that are available, give you the right information to get such things done as an advanced directive, living wills, and more of this. What we do, we lead and guide them through the right paths at the right time for the most appropriate services for them.
Thank you, Pastor Green, for being here. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Information.
Thank you very much.
Well, in addition to the grief support services, there are some new things happening at Hospice of South Texas. Stay with us to find out more. Hospice of South Texas has some exciting changes in store. Here to talk about them are Lori Eder, the interim CEO, and Dr. Ty Meyer, Chief Medical Officer. So thank you both so much for coming in. We heard a little bit about the grief services that are offered through Hospice of South Texas, but when it comes to hospice in general, tell us a little bit about some of the misconceptions about what hospice is, first of all. Either one of you.
I think the biggest misconception is that hospice care is for those that are imminently facing death, and that doesn't serve our community well. Hospice, you want to take it from there?
Well, you know, it's a big word. It's a heavy word, and it's a scary time to be facing the end of life with your family member or a loved one, or as yourself. And so what we see is people will hold off on taking the full benefit of the services until, like Lori said, they're imminently ill and facing death within days to weeks. Ideally, the services is meant to expand up to 6 months to really help prepare people to address their symptoms, and that's kind of the medical role that I serve, is to make sure that they're feeling as good as possible, so they have time to make memories with their family, to heal wounds, as Pastor Green was talking about. And it takes some time to do that, and it cannot all be done in days or weeks necessarily.
And what are some ways that hospice care has evolved over the years and really changed?
Well, I think the complexity of patients has changed as our population has changed, and we have more treatments for different illnesses. It's become much more complex. I guess the downside of some of the treatments is the side effects, and so those present different challenges when folks face hospice care. We have, when hospice started, it was a cancer basically diagnosis that came on. Now we have patients with dementia, Parkinson's disease, a lot of neurologic disorders, heart disease, lung disease, and everyone requires a little bit different care to address their symptoms.
Okay. And what are some of the changes that are coming up for hospice, or kind of here locally, what's coming up?
Well, I think one of the biggest changes that was such an eye-opener for me was the hospice landscape. I mean, as we all know, healthcare is always evolving and always changing with regards to levels of care and Medicare billing and those kind of things. But currently in the hospice landscape, about 70% of the organizations are companies that are for profit. And we stand alone in South Texas as the only nonprofit with a 5-star rating from Medicare. And we're very proud of that. We established ourselves 40 years ago. In 1985, a few doctors from DTAR got together and saw the need. But the current changes with Medicare billing and in the for-profit landscape have really, it's a competition now for those Medicare dollars and for those Medicare patients. And our mission remains the same. Our mission is to provide comfort and care over the dollar. And it's tough out there, as there are now businesses, there are joint venture businesses providing hospice care. There are businesses that have physician investors in them. So that's been a real challenge, but we don't waver. Our mission stays the same, to provide top-notch care with our nursing staff and our doctor staff. Dr. Meyer is a full-time medical director at Hospice South Texas, and for a nonprofit, that is an amazing thing, and he's been with us for over 15 years.
All right, well, moving forward, Dr. Ty Meyer and Ms. Lori Eder, who is the CEO or interim CEO, plan to continue the work that's being done within our community and strengthen that. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Stay with us. Up next, we'll find out about a program helping local veterans in our community.